Hey guys, welcome to the Aggregated Finance Technical Analysis, a video for Sunday, the 22nd of May 2022. As always, the contents of this video do not constitute financial nor investment advice, and any trading you do based on this video is done purely at your own risk. Alright, with that, let's get into what we're seeing on the charts. So we have that big drop from a couple of weeks ago, and we're sort of in no man's land at the moment. We've gone sideways. However, we are below all of the moving averages, which tells me that we could be vulnerable to another drop, possibly testing this low. Don't take it as a given that the low has been put in and we're going to go off to the races from here. It's not so easy as that. We are looking at Bitcoin, of course. Let's take a look at Ethereum and see if we've got exactly the same thing there. So very difficult to tell where we're going to go in the immediate term. Really what we need to do is look at the main equity indices to see if that is giving us any clues. So this is the daily chart, the SPY, which represents the S&P 500. We intraday made a new low on Friday, but we closed back above the low from last week. Now, if we take a look at the peak, from the peak of early January until that intraday low on Friday, that was a drop of 20% or so, possibly 20.5%, which means intraday we were in a bull market. We were in a bear market temporarily. However, we closed back above, and so from the peak we are down around 18.5%. So we're on the cusp of a bear market. However, we've come straight down more or less, certainly since April, and I think the markets are due a bounce of some sort. I know I've been saying that many times, but at some point we are going to get a rally. Now, will it be the start of another sort of bull run, and will it be off to the races again? My inclination, and it's just an inclination, is probably not. There's a chance now that we may be entering a longer term bear market in equities, which is of course will not bode very well for the cryptos that are below all the moving averages on all the time frames. Now, normally what happens is we don't go straight down. I mean, we've gone straight down. Well, from here in January we went down, we went up, we went down. We've been all over the shop, and now we are at the lower end of this range, if you call it. And so we are due what's potentially known, or what would be known as, a bear market rally, meaning that within a downtrend you will have multi-week moves, sometimes a move that might last 2 or 3 months that will take you higher, and all the amateurs think, oh, we're off to the races again, and it's a trap to lure in investors. So taking a look at the weekly time frame, I'm expecting a bull run or a bull market, bear market rally, as it were, to take us somewhere up to maybe this level here, the 430 level, which from the present position will be a move of around 10%, give or take, and that should be a good opportunity if you are in equities to get off the train in case things do turn southbound again, and I suspect they possibly will, because we've got rising interest rates due to high inflation, which we have not seen for most of us during our certainly our adult lifetimes, and the older people among us, certainly not since for the last 40, 50 years perhaps. So that is a big threat for the market. You've got companies like Target now saying that their costs are increased, and that's eating into profit margins, and if we get reports from companies saying the same thing, that means there is going to be a downward revision in a lot of these stock prices, because they're going to be relatively expensive. So that is the overall backdrop that we are looking at. So going back to the cryptos, looking at this pattern here, I would love to say, wow, this is a screaming buy and we're off to the races again. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as that. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you might be lucky and you buy in and you get a good move to the upside. We're in vulnerable territory here. I know we've already had this massive drop, but again, nothing here tells me that we've definitely put the bottom in and you can buy blindly and forget about it for the next 3 or 6 months. It's not as easy as that. We're below the moving averages. They're all pointing downwards, and there's spacing in between the moving averages on all time frames. Let's go to the weekly chart. Again, we are congregating below this pivot low here, which is weakness, and we've held support at that pivot low there. But again, we are potentially vulnerable, but there will be bounces along the way. I'm sorry I can't give you guys something definitive and say, buy here. And again, it's not as easy as that. This is unfortunately not how markets work, especially when, we had this build up on the bearish side below the moving averages, telling us that, we were going to get a big move down, which has now played out. And we just have to wait and see how things play out over the coming days and weeks. Let's go to Bitcoin and see if the weekly chart is telling us anything different there. Bitcoin, we're even weaker here. One thing that tells me, I forgot to mention this, let's go back to the equities. One thing that tells me that we are due a bear market rally, or we are due a rally in the markets, which will of course help cryptos, is the fact that if I look at the IWM, this is the Russell 2000 index, which represents small business in America. We did not make an intraday new low on Friday. In fact, that low that was made on the 12th of May, we've gone upwards, we've gone sideways. Even though the markets made new intraday lows, the Russell 2000, which represents, the sort of young up-and-coming companies, it's slightly higher risk than the blue chip Dow Jones on the S&P 500. The fact that it did not make an intraday low, it did not break the low of May the 12th, tells me that this is telling us that possibly we're going to be in a risk-on environment, certainly for, I would hope, a few weeks, possibly a month or two. So it's just something to be aware of, and if that happens, then that will of course bode well for the cryptos. Alright guys, I'll wrap it up there, and I'll put another video out sometime during the week.